Welcome to the podcast, Leading Change. I'm your host, Adam Christie. Our guest comes to us today from Scottsdale, Arizona. He runs a full-time mentoring business for online coaches and entrepreneurs to grow and scale their online businesses. We were lucky enough to speak with him a couple of days after the U.S. 2020 election. He offers incredible insight on leadership and a growth-based perspective on life. Let's dive in with Jeremy Montoya. We are here today with Mr. Jeremy Montoya. Jeremy, why don't you tell us a little bit about you for people that don't know you or haven't gotten to know you yet?
Well, first, Adam, I'm honored to be here. Super thankful. So thank you for inviting me on. Like Adam said, my name is Jeremy Montoya. I full-time run a business called Personal Freedom Mentoring, and I help online coaches and online entrepreneurs grow and scale their online business. And it's been quite a journey, very heavily kind of leadership based and involved. So I'm going to break into it here today, coming to you from a very gorgeous Scottsdale, Arizona. So super appreciate you having me on.
There's some times where I have tried to follow people, and if I get caught up in that I could lead better, then I get into a whole new tailspin. But if I'm the best of myself, if I'm the best leader, then I know that people are still watching me. And if I am the best follower, I'm still leading. People are still watching me. So just because you're following doesn't mean you're not leading as well. Would you agree?
Then I think oftentimes we look at leadership as like the person in the front or the loudest person, and it's an easy folly. It's not always the case. And the best leaders have the best people around them, usually shaping their decisions and guiding them. They aren't the leading force and making all of the decisions and all the calls. I in fact think that's the rarest form of a leader, the person who just has it all. I that exists. I think that and only from experience will you know that, of course, there are leaders. It doesn't mean they're good. It doesn't mean they're bad. And we, though, have the choice for who we follow and the ideals we follow. And so whether or not the person you wanted to or voted for is going to be leading the country over the next 4 years, you don't have to follow them, so to say. And you can have your own deals that you lead your life and your people and your family with, that don't have to be in alignment with what the greater majority, argument of legitimacy have chosen. And it's not always the person that you want who's going to be leading in the situation that you're in, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow, and it necessarily mean that they are good or bad, so to say.
You brought up Steve Jobs. Tell us a little bit about what was your experience. Were you directly reporting to him, or was he just the head of the company under which you were involved in?
Yeah, just the head of the company. Okay. It would have been a dream to have been able to report directly to him. And even in Steve's case, like there are definitely admirable traits about him, and definitely things that are not so admirable about his leadership. Sometimes you have to pick and choose the things that you're going to follow or emulate or internalize from someone, because no one's perfect under on God's beautiful green earth. No one's perfect. And so you have to still be cognizant, and you can't just subscribe 100% to anyone's specific way of life or leading. You have to look through it with fresh eyes and always have your own guiding light to guide who it is that you're attracting and attracted to and that you're subscribing to. So I had the privilege of working at Apple during the time that Steve Jobs was around. He had announced his pancreatic cancer before I had joined, and I had the opportunity to work for Apple for 4 years. I worked in retail, so I was the lowest of the totem pole if you wanted to put a corporate rank, starting in as a part-timer salesperson, which they called a specialist at the time. Okay, and it was right after and kind of during the tail end of the recession, so Apple wasn't hiring. It took a year and a half from the time I was there for there to be a full-time position open on the West Coast.
Wow.
So even if I wanted it and there was a full-time spot open, it may not have been around me. About 6 months in, I decided, wow, this is the place at the time, I was a bit younger, that I wanted to retire from, because I found a place that I could thrive in. And about 6 months in, I made a shift and I made that change. That point forward, I started showing up differently, But from that moment, it took a year before any slots were open for a full-time position, which they considered a promotion, but it's not really. You weren't getting paid more. You got benefits because of the hours that they were going to be giving you. And I'm getting sidetracked here, but it was a different company at the time. And I surrounded myself in the store. I started walking like them, talking like them, making decisions like them, using their guidance to be making my decisions. And because I was rewarded inside of the structure. And so I got to see kind of what Steve's impact was in the company. And Apple's drastically changed since he stepped away and passed on. It's not the same company, but his vision is completely still intact. And one of the small experiences that I'm honored to be able to say is that I was in San Francisco at WWDC. It's Apple's big developers conference. And I was there. He announced the iPhone 4 with FaceTime, which was the last keynote that he ever gave. And to be there as an Apple employee, paid, and got to work the conference or work the event, and kind of got to be there for his last keynote. And so never got to chat with the man individually, never got to even, be close to him in proximity. But being able to be there and understand how he set the company up, huge inspiration, and had a huge impact long before I even worked at Apple, and a lasting one after.
So let's jump into what you said as far as there were some good characteristics about Steve Jobs and there were some not so good characteristics. What do you say were his pros and the things that he struggled with?
Sure. And anyone telling you someone has everything good or everything bad is completely misleading you, because it's just not the case.
Right.
And so you have to keep a fresh pair of eyes on everyone in your life.
Yep.
To stay level-headed and non-emotional and rational. Steve's often portrayed as a very, very hard-nosed, rough, knows what he wants. If he doesn't get it, you're dead type of person. And I would dare say that's a toxic trait.
Okay.
But when you look at the result of it and what it caused, and called for people to pull for themselves, he called people to, because of that, perform their best, very hard circumstances and timeframes to create life and world-changing products. So a very toxic, or so to say, labeled bad thing had all of these benefits to it. And oftentimes, any leader, Steve or others, who have these good things, it doesn't mean it always results in things that are good, and oftentimes can result in bad. If you get a leader who can easily be walked on, that's going to create a lot of bad situations. But a leader who allows no room and is very hard-nosed and stubborn, Steve probably being a prime example of that, or at least of what he's portrayed to the public and what his legacy's been preserved as, creates these good things. And so I think there's something to be said for putting people under pressure. I think there's something to be said for understanding how to get the best from your people. Is that the best way ever or always? For sure not. But it's toxic. But also at the same time, this company that's absolutely changed the world. So I'm not sure if I answer your question spot on there or not, but some bad things about him, probably some toxic ways he may have treated his people. Some good things about him is that he had a vision that was so far bigger than him that even the lowest of low employees, me coming in as a part-time specialist in retail, could be inspired and thrive based on that vision.
Did you feel like a pressure working there because of his expectations?
Is it the same retail? No. Are there people walking around at every stage of Apple trying to be like him? Absolutely. But the culture of Apple when I was there, it's drastically changed. I only know that because many of my best friends, my longest standing friendships and relationships, they're still there.
So how's it different?
The culture back then, the whole phrase started with at Apple, our core, our soul is our people. And I left because I no longer felt that was the case. Because it's one thing to be saying that, and it's another thing, business and legal decision, to be able to follow and subscribe to that. And I just think that this is a perfect example of me And this might be you listening to this right now, giving up mine or your power to something bigger like an employer. Nothing is going to save you at the end of the day. You have to save yourself. And relying on any corporation, any party, any leader, anything like that is a surefire to failure and to wasting a lot of time. You have to save yourself. And for hours on that concept, but it has definitely changed. But the culture at Apple from the top down, and I think this is probably still intact from what I gather and my feeling, is that it does create an accountability with everyone to be showing up as your best and to be performing your best. Is of course what you might see in the Ashton Kutcher rendition of Apple walking in and Steve walking in and how he takes over and all that. I would the case, but in every basket of apples is a bad one. And there's always going to be people in there who take that to the 11th degree and want to emulate that. But those people are quickly weeded out of that culture or set shape because environment and the expectation there is you really do care about your people. So has it changed? Yes. Is it, it's still a corporation at the end of the day and decisions based on finances and the best thing for them, regardless of any individual person. That's the reality then and now.
That was a great movie, wasn't it? That Steve Jobs movie.
It was good. There's a lot of them. If you're a fan of Steve and the Apple journey, I think the best movie rendition of it was made while Steve was still here, years before he passed. And it's called Pirates of the Silicon Valley. It is phenomenal. Kind of a harder movie to find. Bookmark it if you find it. Buy it where you can. Pirates of the Silicon Valley.
What do you think as a leader has been your finest moment?
There's these ones that seem, it's such a great question, seem small in reality that end up being the ones that I'm most proud of. I'm going to share a bigger one. Every day I get to connect with online entrepreneurs and coaches who are trying to better themselves and expand their reach so that they can serve more people. And helping those make breakthroughs has this ripple effect that's so beyond what I can fathom that every day is rewarding with what I do. Like I really mean it when I say that. And helping people to achieve their goals of helping more people is like one of the most rewarding things. So if you are someone who finds yourself teaching, caring about others, has a passion or an interest, like coaching is one of the most rewarding things that you could ever do. And it's great that nowadays it's all online. It's completely, virtual and so on. So there are these micro moments, and any leader and probably everyone listening to the show has had these moments where they've had a small breakthrough with someone and been able to help them or to them. I would say that one of my most memorable moments of leadership came from when I was in high school. And I have found myself continuously in these leadership opportunities. And in elementary school, I was vice president and a student council. In high school, an organization called Skills USA, used to be known as VICA, Vocational Industrial Clubs of America. Their goal is to make sure America has a skilled workforce. And so relevant in today's society and where we're headed now, potentially, as of today's announcements. And I ran as a national officer my summer of my junior year. And so I was a national officer my senior year of high school. I missed my whole first week of senior year. And at my first meeting with my team and with the national officer team, you choose who's going to be what position. And I was chosen as president. And so it was just an amazing, humbling opportunity. With it comes a couple perks. And I was also chosen as one of two students to change the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which I didn't understand the weight of it at the time in high school. And in Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. or Virginia. And then we walk over right after changing the wreath. And I got to give a speech at John F. Kennedy's gravesite at the Eternal Flame. And being able to do that, I was able to get my dad out there, so he was able to watch it. And not a military family for me, but he grew up with his dad in the military. And my grandfather was served many, many years and was not regarded as a Purple Heart or service member because where his papers were saved, the building burned down. Literally got a knock on the door from the desk of George W. Bush, Secret Service, honoring him, giving him the benefits, giving him all that sort of stuff in his old age. And being able to speak there amongst all the fallen soldiers, men and women of America, and being chosen to do in front of 300 or 400 students of the elite students in the organization who had traveled out there for this leadership camp, was this leadership institute, was one of the things that I will take with me, to my dying days. And, I went out in front of 15,000 in Kemper Arena in Kansas City and kind of opening up the big session for the students. And like those things right there, it's with leadership comes great responsibility. And I think it takes a level of humility to really embrace those moments and to not take advantage of those things in a way that's to the detriment of others. And it's a slippery slope with those things. But, of course, the micro moments of every day, being able to help serve them and making them better people in their communities and to the world at large, those things are absolutely incredible and why I do what I do now. But also, being able to speak and represent my people, students, and those moments are the things that stand out most.
So as we're wrapping up with this, Jeremy, tell us, where can people connect with you?
Well, first, Adam, this has been a pleasure to be on your show and to be a part of this. I think you're bringing to light such an important conversation that has not been kind of focused on or spotlighted, so to say, most recently. And so I just want to commend you for bringing this to the world, and just honored to be a part of it. I would have loved to connect with you listening right now or watching this, wherever you're consuming this. I think the best place, the most kind of accessible for me, where I make myself most available, is Instagram. My username is WhatUpJeremy, or if you search Jeremy Montoya, you'll find me. Would love to connect with you there. If you found me from here, then send me a DM. And if you are someone who is an online entrepreneur or have found yourself being entrepreneurial, have tons of free resources for you on Instagram and on my website at whatupjeremy.com. So look forward to connecting with you. And of course, Adam, thank you so much for having me here.
It's been an awesome conversation, and I think we've all learned a little bit about you, but you just are so inspiring that I really think it's going to hit a lot of people. So thank you so much for your time.